We have been running this time. Again, OBS glitches again. Always make me a little nervous when I don't get to see what the hell's going on. And I think we're live. Honestly, don't know if we are or not. Checking on my signal here real quick to see if it's true. Oh, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, we're coming through. Okay, so I can adjust my volume here a smidge. Get this thing aligned. Square up. We're off to a rough start this morning, folks, but hey, ain't that just life? I just need to do some social media postings here real quick to make sure my signal flies out, and we're going to do some Eberron artwork today for the adventure that we're creating. Crystals of Mabar is for 7th and 8th level characters using Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2024 mechanics. You're fighting necromancers, undead, and demon in the Carnwood of Carnath on the continent of Corvair. And we are currently making a page of artifacts. Almost there. Stay on target. There we go. We should be set up now. Okay, hey, let's get to work. For those that are new to the channel, like, subscribe. Holy crap. Thanks a lot, new subscribers. Got new folks on the team. I really appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. This is episode 442 of Creating This Adventure. Here's the full entire playlist, a bunch of books that we've already created. They all have free previews on DMsGuild. Check them out. If they add anything to your campaign, consider picking them up. Here's the book cover we created around episode 40. And here's the page of artifacts that we're working on. So the Eye of Mabar is the central theme of this adventure, used to create an artificial manifest zone to the plane of Mabar, where Yugoloth and undead go bump in the night. And similarly, there's 13 planes of existence in the Eberron world. The Eye of Mabar is one of them, but each of the planes could also have their own artifact that could be used to open portals to their respective planes of existence. So you can make an entire campaign out of gathering and resolving artifacts. We're currently working on the Parasol of Irion, the Eternal Day. So let's continue working on this. We're just making a loose pattern of just a loose radial symmetrical pattern of stained glass type stuff that could fit inside of a glass parasol. So I'm just gonna continue working on this a little bit. I don't honestly think I need to take the symbols much further, but I am going to need to put iron, basically iron rod bars around them to hold them in place, as one does with stained glass windows. We'll need to do similar with this, so we'll get on that here in a few. I'm just playing with shapes a little bit. We're working on off screen. We're working on some front end of the book illustrations right now, and it won't be very long till we start working on the actual trim frame, the trimming of the page. We have a very sloppy, loose reference point that fills the space that the frame needs to occupy, but we're gonna go in and like make a formal shape out of this and clean it up and make it look cool. But for now, like I said, we're we are working on stained glass thing. I'm gonna thicken this up. The foreshortening on the curved surface on the interior here, it's tricky. No, tricky. I think we're gonna be okay. What I really need to do is make sure I'm not trying to be a perfectionist about this, because there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this geometrically perfect. No chance, but I can at least make it look good. So that's the current goal here. Let's get this curve working. So I stream 10 times per week, Monday through Friday in the mornings like this. We do artwork. On Tuesday and Friday night, Tuesdays and Friday lunchtime, Seattle time. At lunch, we do game design, character creation stuff. Right now, we're working on the Spellpoint Sorcerer. Last week, we resolved the meta magic list for the Spellpoint Sorcerer, and now and as well as the some of the subclasses being reworded to comply with Spellpoint mechanics, using the flavor of the subclasses that are provided in the 5e24 book. Tomorrow at lunch and on Friday, we'll continue that effort with the Wild Sorcerers next on deck. And then we're going to work on the Forsaken subclasses like the Shadow Sorcerer and Divine Soul, and I think there's a couple other Storm. I think there's a Storm Herald Sorcerer. We're going to work on those as well. And once we finish that set, boy, oh boy, we're really close to actually being done with Spellpoint Sorcerers in general. We're in the process of rebuilding all of the all of the classes and subclasses in 5e24 to use the color mana mechanics that we've published on the DMsGuild already, and so there's a lot of updates that we're doing, a lot of mechanical updates that need to be done, not only just because to make it 5e24 compliant, but because I've been using the Spellpoint system in multiple campaigns now over the past 8 years, 3 of which have gone from level 1 to 20. I've had a lot of opportunity to just get rid of tweaks and file down some of the edges and polish it. I have an opportunity to do more artwork with it, so we're just going to rebuild all of the books with the new rules, with the new sensibilities that we've discovered over using the system for years, and just do a general quality of life update to the system in general. Since 5e24, since Wizards went through the process of updating the 5e mechanics to 2024, it's a great excuse for us to also update all the color mana mechanics that we've done to make sure. Honestly, 5e24 works better mechanically with the color mana system than what 5e14 did. So this is a welcome opportunity, even though it will probably eat 9 months of time. We're going to start in on that process in September. Most likely it'll be September that we get started. This book should be published by then. I'm hoping this book's going to be published in July, maybe June. But hey, Fox, it's good to see you. Yeah, we're working on the umbrella. Symmetry I know is going to be an issue, so I'm really not going to try to sweat myself over being perfect about it. I just want it to look right, like just to get the gist and make it look aesthetically pleasing. But so far these shapes are good. So once I get all these shapes to be relatively balanced symmetrically, like I've got this radial symmetry issue. This is the interior of the umbrella, and then we have the radial symmetry that we need to worry about on the exterior of the umbrella, right? So we have those two planes that we're working on right now, and so once we get all the dynamics on the shapes resolved, then we're going to start putting in the brass framework between them, and then further bifurcate it. Look at me using words. Like if I were to put a frame, like a black wrought frame in here, like this, for instance, I can take that frame down here to the base, and then from there I could further divide this space here into its own little sun that we have here, and then I can do the same for here. So we're just making a radial symmetrical pattern that can implement these different ideas, and I think it'll probably end up looking really cool. So it'll be good. It'll be good enough. So yeah, this will end up being probably pretty fucking cool. So we'll do that. We'll do all those stained glass, and then I'm going to see what we can do about having like a radiance coming through to then project outward, and then like maybe have a oh shit, I just locked up my computer. I have to press save real quick. Sometimes Photoshop will recover after I save. Nope, it's completely locked up. OBS is not playing nicely with Photoshop today, so I have to close the document and reopen it. There we go. And then it would be like something like that, so we can start having patterns come through like that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it turns out. We'll see how it turns out. So, work in progress. That's the idea. That is the idea. Oops. Oh shit. Fuck you. Computer locked up and I left the marks on it. That's just horrible. So let me fix this. You caught me monologuing, you sly dog. Oh well, that's what I get for demonstrating stuff. You know what? On that sense, I can probably just take this is actually good and bad. I can take this all the way down to the edge. I probably should. You know what? No, I probably shouldn't. Just keep working the problem, Kearney. That's too thin. The foreshortening is a bitch, but I also need to make sure that, like, because our eye's gonna know that as this radial circle comes around closer to our eye, it's going to have foreshortening. So this curve here, this foreshortening bit isn't wrong. It's just too soon for where it's in the rate. Like if it was like right here, then yeah, it'd be razor thin. But we're short of that. Just short of that. So, but we can have this super distortion here, but it has to curve out into something more normal over here. And we also have to keep in mind what's the what's the resolution, like the resolution of the iron frame that's going to be put around these shapes. So like what's the minimum size I can realistically frame? Or what's the smallest tile, stained glass tile I can potentially put on this piece and still have it read proper? Because this internal edge here of the circle is different than the curve on the outside going up to the top. So I need to be able to, again, work this curve here. What a fun challenge. I'm up for it. This one's going to take me a little while to finish, though. It's far too geometrically precise. Like the other ones are just shapes, right? This is the one that's dealing with multiple angles at the same time. This is just a more complicated piece, object than the other ones. I thought the sextant was mechanically complicated, but this is far more. But I resolve it by just working the problem. Piece by piece, just get ourselves through. Is there something going on here? Yes, there is. Gotta get rid of that. We're getting there. This one is disproportionately large, I believe, compared to its sister shapes. It certainly seems bigger, doesn't it? So let's trim it down to size. Can't afford to spend an entire session on this one little shape here. I've got a timer that's going, that's got a 20-minute alarm. And that alarm is specifically there to keep me from hyperfixating on a particular element, such as this particular shape. So when my alarm pops, it's going to basically say, hey, move on to the next bit, dude. You're hyperfixating. You're not going to help you're not going to keep a healthy illustration if you micromanage and hyperfixate on every little element this way. So I'm racing my clock to see if I can finish my obsession with this particular element before it pops. I think that looks okay. There you go, baby. Okay, that's gonna work. Let's move on. I'm gonna hit save while I can. Just keep moving on. If we just keep moving, I'm just gonna leave these major shapes, these three rungs, this starburst, this radiance, and then these little wedges. And then we'll use the framework, the iron framework, to connect them all together. And in that process of connection, we should be able to see a consistent, like I want to make sure I have sufficient space between this burst pattern here and this here and this here. I want those three shapes to have basically a uniform gap between them, and it's not there currently. We're working on it, but if I can have a uniform gap, like we can do connection things, maybe not like this, but maybe like this, you know, stuff like that, to be able to build like little internal shapes between them, to start messing around with like little particular, like little small instances of glass diamonds and squares and shit between these larger patterns. So the larger patterns, it's just a large geometric pattern just to build as a point of reference. There's no special symbology or shapes defining Irian as a plane of existence. So I have a pretty broad brush that I can paint ideas with. And while I don't expect anything here to become iconic relevance to any of these particular planes, I want to be able to at least respect the process of capturing like a taste of their essence the best I can with what these artifacts are doing. So I'm honestly not a big fan of the 13 planes of existence in Eberron. The way that I build them is that they're, thank you, Timely Timer. They're basically like quasi planes. They're like transition points inside the, I guess the astral sea would be in Spelljammer, in the world of Spelljammer. I would say these planes are demi-planes that obviously can be accessed through astral, but also through ethereal from Eberron, and it connects to both ethereal and astral. And like Irian is a mix of the plane, a plane of fire, radiance, celestia, and aspects of the nine hells. Like those four planes kind of merged together into a putty that Irian was created from. And So if you hop from Eberron into Irian, you could then transition from Irian to these different all these other planes of existence that are tied to it. Like Mabar is both basically Gehenna, the Abyss, and the Plane of Shadow. So like if you get into Mabar, you can then transition off to any one of those other 3 planes of existence. So I like the Great Wheel. I like the Elemental Storm, but I also like the Inner Planes and the Outer Plane wheels format from 2nd edition, 1st edition, and Beckme, as well as 3rd edition. It was 4th edition that started mixing it up, and then 5th edition went back to where 1st through 3rd edition were at. And then, of course, Eberron completely ignores all that stuff and has its own planes of existence altogether. So, yeah. So in my canon, in my Eberron, these 13 planes of existence are basically ways that the dragons of Eberron that created the world basically were able to take the building blocks of the multiverse and spin them together to create this world. So they did that by taking different aspects of the inner and outer planes to pull together ideas, and from those ideas, the 13 ideas that are in orbit around Eberron, they were able to pull those different ideas and then coalesce them all into the prime world of Eberron. So you filter through the ideas of the multi-planes of the multiverse first, to then get into the outer and inner worlds beyond that. So anyway, so it has that buffer of protection, just an added layer of insulation against the multiverse, to make it a little more resistant to the change of ideas and the chaos of the elemental storm. At least that's the narrative that we've sculpted over the past 20-ish years of using Eberron as a homebrew setting of choice. So, because like when I build a new campaign, if I'm running a campaign, regardless of how many levels, but definitely when I'm doing a 1 to 20 campaign, my session 0 essentially is, hey, what we're going to start at first level. What kind of a campaign world do we want to run around in? Like, what's the themes of the world that we want to play with? And like my current campaign, the specific request was, well, we want to mess around with Spelljammer because we know you know a lot about Spelljammer and you put a lot of effort into books for that, and we like your games. So Spelljammer's interesting. We want to play around in that with those mechanics, that idea as a world. We're super into Eberron. That's super fun. And we wanted to do something around Eberron. So I took all those ideas and came up with the asteroid belt mining campaign that the team is currently running, the operations of asteroid miners. And it's in Eberron because I could make it work in Eberron, and Eberron already has an asteroid belt that rotates around it. So like we already had the placement, the canon was already in place, the lore was there. Then we just got to flesh it out Spelljammer style. So that was a ton of fun to build that as a campaign concept. And so we've been running around in that using the Bastion campaign ideas for the past year that we're just now translating into 5e24 mechanics with the Bastion campaign idea that came out. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. See, it's close enough. It doesn't have to be fucking perfect. Oh man, I gotta say, I watched a mini series on Paramount Plus over the weekend called The Residence, and it's basically a murder mystery. Somebody dies in the White House, and they bring in one of the world's best detectives to figure out who done it. It's an 8-episode miniseries. It's a great show to binge through on a lazy Sunday. And Sundays in my world are lazy Sundays. Sometimes I'll do housework. Sometimes I'll do maintenance stuff, but a lot of times, unless I have a specific task on hand, a lot of times Sunday is TV binge time, because it's pretty much that, a couple hours on Tuesday. Like, I'll watch maybe like an hour or two of TV on Tuesday and Wednesday night, and then Friday night, and then maybe a movie Saturday night, and then Sunday is my only real day to catch up on media. So Sundays are my binge days. And The Resonance has been on my radar for a while, but I was finally able to carve out time for it. Freaking fantastic miniseries. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. It was amusing from the get-go. The plot holes are minimal. Very worth anyone's time. 8 episodes. It's a great watch. You could easily spend your week on it if you pace yourself an hour a day. Like Spy X Family on Hulu. I watched 1 episode a day of that every day for like a month and a half. There's like 40 episodes. That was fun to slowly pace through, because it's such a good show. It's worth watching in half-hour chunks just to digest it. But some shows are worth just blasting through as a binge. And if it's a good show that progresses, like progressive plot lines, are great for binging. Episodic stuff are really good for breaking up. Anyway. Once I get the geometry for all 4 colors resolved here on the interior, we'll do the same on a separate layer for the exterior, and then we'll be able to merge the two together with the brass frame, and then we'll do all the filler bits, and you know, it'll be essentially done. So it's just a lot of complexity inside of this particular piece. A lot of decorative detail that the others don't have the level of difficulty with, because, well, first off, this is glass, so it's transparent, so it's going to have the pattern on both sides, interior and exterior space, but it's also specifically fragmented into small chunks of glass, like, you know, glass panels, glass what's the word I'm looking for? Not tokens. Kind of like tokens. Tiles. Thank you. Like mosaic tiles. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Hey, what's going on, Tex? Sunday afternoon is the family game. Sunday evening is the long-standing game group. Between that and house chores, Sundays go fast. Yeah, no, pains, yes. Tiles is the word. Little mosaic tiles is actually what I was thinking of. Like I was talking about, like the really small spaces that we're going to have between the 2 different colors. That's what I was thinking of. But I didn't have enough vocabulary in the moment to be able to get the idea across. Thank you. The review process for my channel finished over the weekend, so I can now go through the process of setting up a Shopify store, which is exciting to me. Just another talking point, really. Show less. Okay, so you have your YouTube channel here, and then you have your description here, and then underneath that we have our live chat board over here, obviously, but if I have a Shopify channel set up, I can then underneath that here, and then further down will be comments later on, but the Shopify bar here, I can just load up with stock art, stuff that I've already produced that either is already on DMsGuild and ttrpg or what I've intended to put on there. I can start building an actual storefront. I'm not sure if what options I have for that, but if I can integrate my Patreon into that bar of shop options. I can also then set up my Patreon. So, and I need to do this anyway. So my task for next Saturday, if I won't get to it sooner realistically, Saturday afternoon is kind of like when I do administrative stuff between my playtest game in the morning and then basically the only thing I have to do on Saturdays is my playtest game on my Discord server. And I have no actual obligations outside of that. So it's a good day for me to do admin stuff on the channel. What, like if I have to do, like for example, there's 3 videos, like recorded videos that I need to create by May. Actually, I think I need to get 2 done in April and 1 done by May. So like I will spend time off screen, build kind of like the Spelljammer series that I made of short videos talking about concepts. I've got 3 concept videos I need to do, 2 in April and 1 in May. So I'll take time off screen to do that. Working like with the United States Patent and Trademark Office for my upcoming Kickstarter campaign for Guild Delvers. I do stuff with that, you know, admin stuff, just bookkeeping and crap. So I'll probably end up using my Saturday downtime in the future, like for stock art packaging and production stuff like that. Now that I have an actual storefront that I can, like when I talk about art and stuff, I could actually click into actual pieces of art that I've done before. I can just go, yeah, like this one for instance, and then click here and then pull into like one of the pieces that I've done as you know, as a means of self-promotion. So self-aggrandizement is acceptable if it's done with, you know, with panache. And then rebuilding my Patreon. So what I want to do on my Patreon is if you buy stock art for your own production of books, you have unlimited right to print use stock art that you've purchased unlimited, as long as you're spending $1 a month on me as a holding your rights to be able to use my stuff. And that's not useful to most people that probably tune in on the channel, but it allows me to sell my stock art on the cheap, like super fucking cheap, couple bucks. And I suspect the ship is probably sailed on that already with what AI is doing, and that's okay for me. I'm going to do the art regardless, and the best way for me to be able to show off my stuff and brag about it is to have a storefront, which I've never bothered to do. It's I think 2025 is the year that I finally start like leveling my shit up and start dipping my toe into business-like activity with my work. I've shied away from treating art as a business since the like 2000. I want to say since 2006, when I started transitioning away from doing a lot of freelance art for the RPG industry. Kind of got distasteful for me for a while there. It's not bad. I think it's balanced enough that a casual view it passes muster. Hey, what's up? Where are you on commissioned art? You sound very busy. Oh yeah, I don't have time for any. I will occasionally do a commission. Most of the time, the commission work that I do these days is barter for trade work with either co-writers on books that I'm making or editors. The one thing that I am very blessed for in this industry right now is that most indie producers like myself want to have unique art that's handcrafted. They don't want to have to slide into AI art production to be able to hit their numbers, especially on book covers. AI book cover is like if you want to fraction your sales immediately, put an AI cover on. Like nothing turns off audience like AI cover art. The thing is that most of these people are patrons, not consumers. And there's a big difference in that idea. Consumers want content and they're willing to put money into it to get it. But these are also the same people that are willing to just take free stuff off of Reddit or put zero when they purchase a pay what you want. Well, they want to pay $0. And that's fine. They have that prerogative to do that. We make pay what you want $0 options available so that people can at least look at the stuff. And that's kind of my attitude with consumers, where if you're just willing to take a look at what I do, I don't want to have any barrier between your willingness to look at my work and being able to actually do so, which is why I make all of my stuff on DMsGuild 100% free preview. Then you can choose if you want to buy it or not. But if you do choose to buy it, most of them have a set price point that is expensive for other things of similar size. Because I put, obviously, you can see here, hundreds of hours into stuff that I do, I'm not going to price it cheap, but I am going to make it so that you can decide whether it's worth the extra cost or not. So that's why I make it free. I've gotten so many messages and emails from folks that said, hey, I probably wouldn't have bought this if you had just given me a fraction of it to look at as a like a paywall access point, but because you made it free and because it's good enough that I want all the assets that you included, I'm happy to buy it, and thank you. Like that really lets me know I'm on the right fucking path. And that's when you're identifying the difference between a consumer and a patron. Patrons are people that have disposable income that they're looking for somebody that's worthy of receiving it for their ideas. And those are the type of people that I want to impress the most, because they're the type of people that are willing to tip well when they recognize a server at a restaurant really knows what the fuck they're doing. Or like they know like you want to know what their name is. They impress you. And those are that's the type of artisan I want to be for these type of people. The patrons, these people are looking for people that have poured their heart into good ideas that make sense, that they know that they can come and connect with and get clarifications about, like, hey, I want to use this thing. Can you clarify how X, Y, or Z works, or whatever? And those people abhor AI art. What they hate is lazy effort. Like, my money is here to support people that show as much passion about building games as I am about playing them. I have disposable income, and I am willing to give it to you if you can show me that you've earned it. And AI, nothing says I don't deserve your money like AI. I'm not willing to invest in my craft, so you shouldn't invest in it either. That's what AI cover art says to this patron community. Consumers don't care, but consumers also don't care whether they're using pirated material or not. So there's a difference in the audience there. So you kind of have to make a decision about who are you trying to connect with, consumers or patrons. And in the RPG industry, there is a notable difference. So that's a mini rant there. But because of that, because most of us indie RPG creators we recognize the difference between those two types of shoppers. Cover art that's original is also incredibly expensive. So most of the commissions that I do is barter. Like I've got a 75-page book that I need to have edited, and I will give you a book cover in exchange for that. Like that's a fair trade for a lot of editors out there. It's like you're gonna, and everyone knows that in the process of me making that book cover, I will talk about whatever it is that I know about the product for however long it takes me to finish it, and like how the ideas of that book make, because I always get a free copy of the book or whatever that goes along with it. So I have the opportunity to talk about it, to basically talk up the book that I'm doing artwork for however long I do it, just like I do with my own shit. Because most of the people that make these requests of me or that are willing to accept those deals are people that I've worked with already on other projects. I'm fortunate to have a decent reputation of somebody who is, yes, incredibly slow at being able to produce, but the end result of that production is going to be high quality work. So, quote unquote, if I don't mind bragging myself. So my commissions are generally limited to editors and co-writers that are going to help me with whatever pieces I have coming up. And instead of me giving them a percentage, because percentage sales on DMsGuild is pretty fucking iffy. So you can either you can just buy people working on your stuff for just X $100. I'm gonna throw cash at you for you to be involved, and I will give you regular injections of cash to keep working with you. That's often enough. But then if I don't want to pay, and that allows me to retain percentages, so that I can actually, if I have a $20 book and I only get $2 for that book, I feel kind of burned on the amount of time. I don't feel the dopamine punch of seeing $6 or $7 or $10 rolling in every time an expensive book gets sold. If I have to break it up amongst too many cooks, if too many cooks have too many percentages of a product that I work on for a long period of time, I feel burned. So I'll either barter the labor with book covers and interior art or whatever, or I will pay them cash up front so that by the time the book publishes, I've forgotten about the cost that it took me to get them on board to make it happen. But if I don't give them a percentage, they have less skin in the game. They've already finished their bit, so there's not a lot of marketing support from team members that don't gain any residual percentages. So there's a trade-off between those things. So having said all that, yeah, I generally don't have any time for commissions. But that's only because I've chosen to overload my plate right now. The 2024 rule updates really threw a wrench in my production cycles for, from a year or so ago through probably another year or two from now. Really just completely shifted what I thought I was going to be working on. Because I could have stayed with my plans and really dived into Spelljammer content and kept pushing that as my campaign of choice. But the 2024 revisions really cemented for me. Now you need to keep working on color mana, because the identity of D&D is basically shelling out. Is getting hold, and MTG is basically the strongest identity that Wizards has, and for whatever reason they're still gun shy about mixing the two IPs together more. So I want to keep building, because I know how well MTG and D&D blend together. I've got 6 books about it, but I want 10. I want 12. I want to get all the base mechanics out. I can get all the base mechanics for all the subclasses and all the systems, for mana mechanics, for MTG color design. I can get that all done probably in 10 books. And then once all those books are published, then I can spin away from that, because those books will be on DMsGuild and they'll always be there. All the mechanics will be available for people to look at. And then I can start leaning into my Patreon and start building specifics. Because the Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica, the book on Warlock options for otherworldly patrons and invocations and stuff in the Ravnica campaign setting specifically, that was an ultra specific a subgroup inside of a subgroup inside of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's too many layers deep of subgenre or fragmented audiences to really it's not even a silver medal yet. It's like around 90 sales, something like that. It's most of my books go silver. Like I normally get like 100 plus sales on a book like within a month or two. That's the clip of sales that I have, and these are people that probably have never heard of me. It's just my stuff hits the DMs Guild. It's all handcrafted art. It's all tested and effective mechanics that are well built and work together. I just get sales. It's just I just do. So. I don't have to. I want to. The stuff that I do, it works, but if it's too hyper focused on a specific subject, there's not enough people that are interested in that hyper fixated idea of like Dimir, like House Dimir as a patron saint, as an otherworldly patron. Like if you want to play a Dimir Warlock, this is a great option, but there's so many options that you could just reflavor for Dimir anyway. It's hardly has to be looked at as like a definitive resource. It's a cool idea, but the cool idea is too niche. So as a book, it's a flop. As a mechanical concept that can be built on, it's a massive success. Mechanically, it's a massive success. It just doesn't have enough audience appeal to be financially successful. So the solution to that is all those small hyper fixated projects should be Patreon stuff. People that like converting MTG into D&D will be willing to spend a couple bucks a month on a Patreon that is consistently churning out mechanics and ideas for MTG and D&D. That audience does exist. I've just been slow grinding out all the mechanics on DMsGuild. So once all those books are done on my Patreon, I can say, hey, we're going to make a Boros Swiftblade. And here's the links to the books that we're using. They all have free previews. And here's the stat blocks and mechanics for playing a Boros Swiftblade. Here's some original artwork that we made for it, and here's like 6 different build suggestions at different levels for it. And like a Boros Swiftblade is like that's like on the DMs Guild, that's worth $2, and I could expect to sell like maybe 10 copies of it in the first 3 months, maybe. Way too specific of a subject with too little general audience appeal. But if I start using these tools and demonstrating it through my Patreon, it gives my Patreon purpose. It focuses the attention and audience, so I can probably end up making my Patreon a mix of Spelljammer and MTG mechanical stuff for D&D. So you build the books, you publish the books on DMs Guild, and then you make thousands of examples of how those books can be applied to your campaign on Patreon. That's the idea. Anyway, we were talking about commissions. Apparently I'm thinking business today. So, and I have that lazy drawl in my voice. It's because I'm tired. I was up kind of late last night painting. It's exciting to be able to be up late at night now painting. I've gotten literally at this over the weekend I was able to finish all the pages to the book except for the monster stat. There's like 9 pages of monster stat blocks that need to be resolved for 5e24 mechanics, but I don't have to resolve them right now. So I'm taking a coffee break from book layouts. But literally everything else in the book are done except for the stat blocks. The monster stat blocks still exist. They're just for 5e. They're just for 2014 mechanics. So I need to update them for the 5e24 stuff, which is virtually the same as 2014. It's just a formatting issue. But that's the last few pages that I need to figure out. And so off screen now, instead of me working on page layouts, I'm working on the artwork on other pages. Like this is the page that we're spotlighting right now. We're working on these things on camera, but I'm working on other pages off camera, stuff that I was arguing with before, like bashing things into place. And you'll have an opportunity to watch me do some page bashing here in a little bit. Give me like a week or so of finishing up this page, and then we'll be able to start parading through the rest of the rest of the book to see where we're at with it. And yeah, so making progress elsewhere. And where are we at here? Let's just flesh this out a little bit more. Yeah, it's kind of rambling. Don't mind me. This is too up. I need to thicken this curve. Even this might be too spindly. I might have to thicken this up for the glass, for the frame. But as it sits right now, I think those look pretty good. On their own, like in isolation like this, I think they look pretty good. Always fucking with this one. There. That feels pretty good. Yeah. Worth. And then we'll do the sunbursts down here in these semicircles. It just naturally exists down in here. And then we'll figure out, like, I know there's differences in, like, these are flawed. So when we put in the wire frame, we'll be able to start fixing those flaws. But these shapes are good enough for us to go on to that next step. So next step, sunburst. Actually, yeah, let's work on this. What's up? Hey, Steve, it's good to see you, my guy. Hey, you know, be angry if you want. I honestly think the 24 rules are so fucking good. They really are. For a DM, they're good. Okay, so like in this adventure, I can just simply write, if the characters remain hidden, they can, like, for example, if you're spying on guards, there's all this fog in the manifest zone, this necrotic fog that can potentially kill you if you're not careful. But if you figure out how to survive in it, it basically provides partial cover with if you're 20 feet away, and total cover further than that. Those are mechanical terms. You can look them up. I don't need to say more than that. I can just say, hey, if you're within 20 feet, while in the fog, if you're 20 feet away from a target, you have partial cover, and if you're more than 20 feet away, you have total cover. And total cover allows you to hide. So while you remain hidden in the fog, you can overhear conversations from the different mercenary patrols in the manifest zone. Here's a random table for you to listen to. The key here was that I said, while you remain hidden in the mist, or while you remain hidden in the fog. That is a very simple statement, but it has a ton of mechanics in 5e24 that are automatically resolving for you as a DM that process. If you want to be hidden, you have to be behind an object that can obstruct you, which is in this case total cover from the fog. That's auto built in. So I can do that. If I roll at least a 15 or above on a stealth check, I am hidden. And the result of my die roll becomes the DC to notice me in the fog, which you cannot do if you remain more than 20 feet away from me in the manifest zone fog, because I have total concealment at that distance. Once you get within 20 feet of my character, you now have to use the hide roll that I rolled to remain concealed in the mist. And if you can't hit the number that I hit, you can't notice me, and you can walk right past me, and I can listen to your conversation as you're walking by, or ambush you and gain advantage on surprise. But all those mechanics are automatically resolving themselves using the 5e24 mechanics. It's really DM friendly. They gave characters a lot more options and a lot more tools to fuck around with their character, especially in combat. But on the DM side, there's so much mechanical language that is just automatically resolved. Doing the thing resolves the thing. It's very simple. So once the DM better understands the rules of how 5e24 has changed, it is very easy to run. Very easy to run. I love the way that they simplified the rules for influencing. Like, influence is now an action. Like, it's a verb. It's a mechanical verb that you are using basically a charisma check. The default for influence is to make a charisma check. If they are hostile toward, they're either, okay, so creatures have a disposition, which is either friendly, unfriendly, or neutral towards you. What's the actual word? Indifferent. So there's friendly, unfriendly, and indifferent. And then and then on another axis, there is hostile and non-hostile. So if something is hostile towards you, its default is to attack you or to do harm. If you're hostile and non-hostile, there is willing, unwilling, and indifferent. So sorry, I'm still figuring out. It's hostile, indifferent, and friendly, and then willing and unwilling. Those are the 6 matrix. Sorry, it took me a minute there to figure it out. So, sorry. I'm still learning. So if you are if you want to use the influence action, you can shift a creature from friendly to indifferent, indifferent to hostile, or from hostile to indifferent, and from indifferent to friendly. And then you look at what are you actually asking them to do? What do you want that creature to do? Are they willing or unwilling to do that thing? Combine their willingness with their disposition, and you're going to get a response from that creature. So if you tell the king, I want to rule your kingdom, give me your crown, they are unwilling to do that, which means you will never get them to do it unless you force them to a suggestion or some sort of mind control. But they are never willing to do this thing because they are already labeled as unwilling to do this thing. A king is not willing to give up the crown without risk of death. And even then they'll fight you over it. So they are unwilling. But are they hostile, unwilling? Kill you. Are they indifferent and unwilling? Ban you. Are they friendly and unwilling? That's silly. Let's have a drink. If they are willing to do so and they are friendly, they'll do it. Just ask, and they're happy to help you. That is a willing, friendly ally. A willing, indifferent person can do it, but maybe they want some sort of compensation for their time or something, or they expect a quid pro quo. And then if they're hostile but willing, they won't do it unless you give them all these things, just because either they're being a dick to you or because they recognize they can leverage this out of you, but they're willing to. So those are the 6 states that exist inside the 5e24 when characters are attempting to interact and influence the actions and ideas of creatures and NPCs. It's a very simple system that is mechanically sound, that allows the DM to say, no, you can't take the crown from the king without a fight. You're now an enemy of the nation. Good luck. Murder hobos away. You can't just charm the hat off of somebody if they're not willing to give you the hat in the first place. So like those are two very simple examples of how 5e24 really just codifies and thus simplifies how to run the game. Like a DM, like you could technically solo heist missions this way without a DM because you understand how influence and hiding works. And they operate solely off of the dice. All you need to do is just decide, are these things hostile and willing, or are they friendly and unwilling? What's your axis of interaction that you need to manipulate, and what can you realistically get out of something given their disposition? So you can effectively solo stuff like that using the new 5e24 mechanics. Not that you necessarily want to, but you can. And that is indication of a good mechanical system. The DM is just there calling, strikes and balls, but the dice themselves are basically resolving what you can and can't do. So there's less mechanical need for interpretation. But the system still allows for a ton of personal interpretation, which I think is a good system. The DM is there to translate to translate what those results mean. But the system itself tells you your success or not without any contest, like without any gray area. Did it or didn't it? Are you hidden when you attack somebody? Okay, you still have to roll initiative to see if you hit them or not before they're able to respond, but you're going to do so with advantage, and they're going to roll with disadvantage. So it's like double advantage against your target to get the jump on them. If you have surprise and the target cannot be surprised, then you still get to roll with advantage, but they just won't roll with disadvantage. But they won't get advantage on their initiative roll. It's just a flat roll because they can't be surprised, but they haven't gained any particular advantage in this circumstance. See, it's very simple. Very, very simple. Grappling is you spend the action to initiate the grapple, and now it's a saving throw. So if I say I grapple that dude, well, I'm done. What's my DC to avoid me grappling? It's 10 plus prof plus relevant skill, probably strength. Okay, great. I'm going to do a strength saving throw against your set DC, and I failed. Well, I am now grappled. And now I can spend action economy to try to make that save again at the end, as an action anytime I want during my turn to try to break the grapple, or I can spend an attack to push the target. And that will break the grapple, but it's still eating action economy either way. And that works so well with the color mana system that we've developed, because with the concentration system that we use, any saving throw you make can break concentration. So the best way in the game now to break a spellcaster's concentration is to grapple them, because they have to make a saving throw when you initiate the grapple. And if they fail the saving throw, they are grappled. If they succeed the saving throw, but the result of the die roll was less than their concentration check, whether they succeed or not at getting grappled, you can now verify, are they going to succeed or fail with maintaining concentration on the same die roll. You have two numbers to compare: the DC of the grapple, did I get grappled, and the DC of concentration right now. Did me getting tackled, did that break my concentration? No, you didn't succeed at tackling me, but you fucked up my concentration in the process. That is very old school, quote unquote old school. That's a very 3rd edition approach to concentration. And 3rd edition was far more hostile to concentration than 5e was, because spellcasting is really fucking potent. So being hostile to casters is a good mechanical decision. But 5e was trying to make it so you're not being a dick to the casters for trying to maintain concentration. So they made it super soft and very generous to protect your caster from losing concentration. Why? Because you don't get a fuck ton of spell slots to cast spells with, and if you're getting shut down every other round or every 3rd round of combat, having your concentration fucked up, the amount of spells you have left available to you is going to be very thin, is going to feel bad. 3rd edition gave you a lot more spells per level as a caster than what 5th edition does. And its concentration rules were a lot more brutal against you. So they compensated for that rough concentration. You will lose concentration. And so we're giving you more spells so that your action economy is eaten up as a caster to recast spells you deem so important that you're willing to cast them twice in the same encounter. That's where they were at with spellcasting in 3E, and I was good with that. I thought that was a good solution. So 5E reduced the amount of spells that you get so it didn't seem absurd, but at the same time, they softened the concentration rules so that you wouldn't lose those spells as much. So what ended up happening? They ended up buffing the power of spellcasters and nerfing the balance equation, because not only do you have less spells per day, but you can also spam. You have spells that you've chosen and then spells that you actually cast with your slots. In 3rd edition, it was if you have a spell slot, you fill that spell slot with a specific spell, like Pathfinder does. Like 2nd edition, 1st edition, and Beckme did way back in TSR days. Wizards is now in 5th edition completely decoupled the spell slot from what you've placed in that slot. It's now just an open sack of spell levels to throw into any spell you happen to have prepared. And that gave them more flexibility and power, but did not balance that power with penalty, because again, they made spells more powerful. They made what spell you're going to cast more flexible. And in compensation, they reduced the amount of spells that you have per day to cast, but you can choose what they are on the fly. And then they modified, again, concentration to be easier so that once you cast the spell, you can keep it. So they've kind of painted themselves towards less encounters per day with that system, and made protecting the caster even more important, because they only have a couple castings of this spell per day, and so let's make it really difficult to take it away from them, and that completely destroyed the balance between marshals and casters. So having this fragile concentration system put into the system, which is what the mechanics that I built does. It makes that casting more fragile. But the spell points allows you to cast that spell a shitload of times in case it gets taken away from you during combat. If you decide it's so important in this combat that you need it, it's worth the extra action economy to get it back. And that becomes a problem inside of combat for your casters, for your team to figure out. How can we keep the caster from just losing that spell again next turn? That's where martial powers comes in. Let's build martial characters that are capable of controlling the battlefield much more effectively with virtually free resources that casters don't have access to. Push, topple, restrain, grapple, push. These are all things like to be able to control the movement and the targeting, like taunt, compel duels, stuff like that. These are mechanics that the marshals have that can control targeting, controlling what character monsters can target. That's the control that marshals gain over the battlefield. Hit me, not him. You can't get close enough to him to attack him with melee. You can't grapple my caster. I won't let you get near him. That's the control that the martial power system grants. So those two systems work incredibly well together. Your marshals can play keep away for your casters, and then your casters, if they get past the front line, are probably going to lose their spell, but they have enough mana to be able to cast them again. So they are only penalized with their action economy, and you need to penalize casters' action economy, otherwise they're just going to overrun the encounter. Marshals have a lot of action economy, and you can't really take it away from them easily. So marshals can make use of that action economy to shut down enemies from fucking up your caster's action economy. And if everything runs smoothly, everyone is working together as a cohesive team to defeat the enemy. So, which is why I'm looking forward to 6th level in the martial power system. I'm hoping that folks are going to be willing to start playing full casters and mix in casting with their martial builds and multi-class options. As we're taking the mega dungeon to 10th level, so we should have plenty of opportunity to see hybrid. Like, I want to see, I'd love to see a sorcerer monk mix, you know, or like a Paladin Warlock mix. Like I think these are things that are viable and made more fun with the mana systems and martial power system that we've been building to really make all these pieces complement each other. And from a business perspective, I really don't mind that they're on the DMs Guild, because it's all coming from a framework of Magic the Gathering, which is, understandably, that's Wizards IP. So give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. I can get specific on my Patreon. But all these rules, 5e24 rules, really work well together. They, especially with the mana system that I built, but even without the mana system, just the mechanics are good. I just think our mana system makes 5e24 even better, because I'm a mana enthusiast and I'm an MTG junkie, and these are Wizards of the Coast IPs. So I want to respect that process, and the fanboy that I am, it's I'm willing. I don't want to just skirt the rules and ignore them and then do my own thing and reskin it. It's like, no, these are all MTG ideas that I'm having. I'm going to call them MTG because I can call them MTG. You know, I can do my own. I'll do my own thing with elements later. Like the 4 elements, air, earth, fire, water, blend into things like steam, magma, ooze, or mud, rather, soot or silt. Ash and dust. Like these are like the para elements. So you have the 4 main elements, and then you have the para elements in between them. So if I were to build my own 5e game, I have to restart my computer because it locked up again. Hold on, what time is it? Oh my god, it's 8:06. I'm fucking late, dudes. Okay, I gotta bail. I gotta go for now. I'm going to be back tonight, probably in a little less than 10 hours. I should be on by 6 o'clock, if not sooner. We're going to work on the Bastion campaign again tonight. And we're continuing to resolve orders and facilities. Actually, we've gotten orders resolved now. We're working on downtime activities and facility benefits. So that's all working out really well. But yep, that's it. I got to go. We're going to continue this next time. We'll continue with the Starburst and the Radiance. And then we'll probably get those resolved, as well as the Outer Curve tomorrow. And then probably by Wednesday, we'll start putting in the iron wrought framework to separate the different colors, and then start filling in the little different tile pieces. So, all right. Hey, thanks for letting me rant, guys. I really got to monologuing today, but it's just, this shit excites me. So hopefully you're enjoying the ride. Anyone that's new out there, like, subscribe, bell icons. I'll be back in 10 hours to work on more mechanic ideas like these. And yeah, I'm loving this project. This is super fun. All right, that's it, guys. See you on the other side. Laters.